So today I talked with Ryan, who's a financial educator, content creator, and author. In this video, we talked about how Ryan got started with his investing journey, how he grew a portfolio to nearly £200,000 in just under 9 years, and also some of the biggest mistakes that he made along the way and how you can learn from them as well. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I guess let's start off with how did you first get started investing?
It was sort of just luck, really. I mean, originally I got auto-enrolled into a workplace pension in 2017 when I was doing a placement year in between my second and third year of uni. So I say I accidentally started investing in 2017. And then it was really during that year when I was working in London and living at home that I read loads of books. I don't really know why, but I just read books on investing. I was watching all these American YouTubers, and then that sort of then prompted me to start actually properly investing through, like, I made all the mistakes, used a general account, was picking stocks, all of that. But then from probably end of 2018 onwards, it's just been global index fund and chill. So luckily I made the mistakes early on a small amount of money.
So would you say you started investing around kind of 2016, 2017, did you?
Yeah, 2017 was when I first invested through my workplace pension, and then probably mid 2018 properly through like Edge Stocks and Shares ISA.
The question I had then, when you were doing it in 2018, 2019, wasn't there a little bit of a crash then as well?
Yeah, so my first year of actually properly investing, I was in the red. There was all these trade war tensions back then, I think for most of 2018. So I actually done a video on this a while ago, but I'm pretty sure when I properly started my Vanguard Stocks and Shares ISA, which I'd say is my first sort of proper investing account, I think that was end of 2018, start of 2019. I spent most of that year down in the red. I was only putting in £100 a month, so it was very small amounts of money. But I sort of feel like it almost probably done me well, because then when like the COVID crash came and my portfolio dropped 30%, I fortunately didn't panic sell. When then 2022 was a really bad year, I fortunately also didn't panic sell. The thing is now, I've nearly got 200k invested. So when there is inevitably another crash, the absolute number I'm going to lose could potentially be massive. It could be multiple 5 figures. So it'll be interesting to see how I actually react if I do lose 50k over the course of a month, if there was a big crash. But fortunately, all those sort of small blips at the start with the market has probably put me in good stead to just, keep buying, keep holding, and hopefully not panic selling. And in the future, hopefully, no more panic selling either.
Yeah, no, I guess because you've been now investing for so long and you've standed the test of time, even if there was a crash, I mean, it would have to be a very big crash. You're probably going to be all right anyway. Like, you're probably going to have more money than what you deposited anyway.
I mean, counterintuitively, because I'm 29, so I'm still relatively young, if there was a 50% crash, I would of course lose half of my portfolio, but counterintuitively it'd probably be good for me because I'm in the wealth accumulation phase. I call it a bit of stupid jargon, but I can then buy the same global index funds at lower prices every month to hopefully make more gains over the future. Another thing on this as well, the fact that because essentially all of my money is in global index funds, I'm 100% equities essentially, I probably will have to go through quite a few 30-40% crashes. It's just sort of the nature of being fully in stocks, but I'm willing to take that risk because I've got a long-term time horizon. But I do think if crashes will come, you're more likely to stick with it, keep investing, which is the biggest thing. So I actually think the biggest risk for a new investor particularly is you invest at the wrong time, you get an unlucky bit of market timing, you lose whatever it is, 20% overnight, and then you think it's a scam and you never invest again. So that's why I think starting small and sort of educating yourself on how frequent crashes happen is quite a good thing to do.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Just investing like now, there's a lot of people that have started investing this year. A lot of people probably watching this video would have started investing this year. And whilst it's an amazing time to start investing, you've never actually been through an actual crash. And the one thing that I really hope for is that people understand that what we're going through right now is not normal. It's not normal for the markets to continue going up like it has done, especially with the geopolitical issues that we've been going through this year. I just really hope that people do understand that crashes and corrections are all just part of a cycle. So with that said, I am absolutely dying. You kind of give it away there. You got £200,000 in your portfolio, investing for 9 years. What's that portfolio looking like right now?
So I'll give you the specifics. So my largest platform is Vanguard, Vanguard UK. I've got £110,000 on there. About 65-ish is in my Stocks and Shares ISA. I built up from 2018, all the way. I don't actually contribute to that ISA anymore, which I'll come on to, but that's all in one low-cost global index fund, the FTSE Global All Cap. I then have a SIP on Vanguard, which I do still actively contribute to. That's the rest of it, about 45-ish K, I think. And that also is all in the FTSE Global All Cap, which is, I think, one of those things where people think you say like a large number, 200k, that I must be doing something complicated. I genuinely keep it as simple as possible. And the reason why I have that fund in both my Vanguard, ISA and SIP is because that fund is available on Vanguard and it's actually not available on most other platforms. And it includes small cap stocks. So that essentially means I'm as diversified as possible. There's 7,000 stocks in this one fund. And it just, is low fee, diversified, fully global diversification. My second largest account is actually my Vanguard Australia account.
Oh yeah, because obviously you've only just moved to the UK. So how long were you in Australia for building that account up, and what's inside that? Yeah.
So I was building that for 4 years. Okay. My superannuation, which is my workplace pension, was with a company called Mercer originally, but I consolidated it into my Vanguard Australia account when I left that job at the end of 2025. There's no ISA or ISA equivalent. So my other account is a general investment account, which unfortunately has no tax advantages, but I just wanted to invest more per month. Amazingly, actually, and I'm quite happy with this, I just crossed over 100,000 Dingo dollars a few months ago before moving back. So I was buzzing to hit that milestone. It's, of course, half of that in pounds. So it's about 50k.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it was a good milestone to hit.
So you got your main account, you got your Australia account. Was there any other accounts that you had?
Yeah, so I've recently opened the Lightyear business account.
Okay.
And because now I'm working for myself full time and I operate as a limited company. So I now hold some cash in there in money market funds, which earn essentially the bank rate, a bit below the bank rate. I think right now it's 3.8%, but I was earning 2% in the current account. So now all of my extra cash is just in there, sort of like a business emergency fund. And I also have a very small amount in a global ETF, the Invesco FTSE All World, just really to test it out so I can just sort of document the process. Yeah. I've also recently started a Trading 212 stocks and shares ISA. I've had an account on Trading 212 for, I don't even know, maybe 7 or 8 years. And I've got a general account with them. All the money's in the Vanguard FTSE All World. Yeah. My new portfolio, I haven't actually announced this yet, even my own channel, but all of that money is in the Xtrackers FTSE All World.
Exclusive.
Which is the lowest fee FTSE All World ETF at the moment, 0.07%. And the Avantis Global Small Cap Value Fund. So I've split that, which is essentially, the reason why is because I wanted small cap diversification. And although that fund is actively managed, small cap value stocks have outperformed over the long term. So I've split my investments 80-20 across that, but it's really just a global portfolio of 2 new ETFs. I have got accounts on like Freetrade, Invest Engine, pretty much every platform, but yeah, they're probably my other 2 largest and active accounts.
Well, as a content creator as well as an investor, it's good to try out all the platforms anyway, because it helps educate your audience, right? What about any other investments? Anything outside of just standard investments? Any crypto? Any premium bonds? Anything outside of investing into equities?
So 93% of my whole portfolio roughly is in global index funds and ETFs. Yeah. I've then got 6 or 7% in crypto. Yeah. Most of that's in Bitcoin. I do also have Ethereum and CRO, which is the crypto.com token. But essentially the only active investment I make every month is into Bitcoin. Yeah. I've been investing into crypto now for 6 years, but my approach is very much just do a little amount, 50, 60 quid a month, and just do that every single month and don't try and time the market, keep doing it. And I like having it as a smaller part of my portfolio. Other than that, I have 2 individual stocks. One is Tesla. Yeah. Got a free share about 6 years ago and I've never sold it. That's done very well. The second one is Diageo. And that's obviously because they own Guinness. So when I get my quarterly £1 dividend, it's only about 100 quid in there. It feels like I'm buying myself a Guinness. So completely irrational, but I just think it's funny.
Brilliant. What are some of the things that kind of really helped you grow that portfolio over the last 9 years?
I would say making a lot of mistakes in my first year or 2 helped, making them on small amounts of money. One is consistency, like you alluded to. I think now I've invested every single month since July 2017. I've never missed a month, and I've tried to invest more over time as my income grew.
What would you say the average is you invest every month at the moment?
So it's actually at a bit of a low because I'm now working for myself and not investing as much. So this 2026 is probably going to be the least amount I've invested for a number of years, which I think is fine. A lot of people think that, and when you do a compounding calculation, it's always, it goes up over time, you invest more and more. The reality is you might not be able to invest as much in a year or a month, whatever it is, and that's completely fine. The last few years when I was a bit more higher up at work and earning better money, I was probably investing on average like low 4 figures a month, maybe between £1,000 and £2,000. I mean, some of that is my super. Yeah. I do include my workplace pension in my investments because I see it as an investment account and part of my financial plan. And I then try and put whatever I can into, I guess in Australia, it was a general investment account. Now I'm back in the UK, it's my stocks and shares ISA. But the consistency really helped. And honestly, I would say just like ignoring the noise, never panic selling, not trying to time things. I think they're all things that you can get caught up in quite easily. There's always a different billionaire on like those American channels banging on about something, trying to incite fear and drama because that's what they're paid to do.
I've fallen for that as well.
That's what they do to get clicks. But you can always, it's interesting. It can be fun to watch, but almost just ignore everything. And then you almost zoom out like 9 years. I've got 200K. It's mental. I don't feel any different. It doesn't feel like I've really done anything special. And I haven't. But it's just the consistent contributions plus the impact of the time, compounding starting to kick in. Like even this year, when there was the massive dip at the start of the year when the war started. And now I think my portfolio is up about £12,000, which is a mad amount of money when I've just not even done anything. So yeah, consistency, not panic selling, and just really sticking to the plan and just ignoring all the noise.
What would you say is the biggest mistake that you have ever made with your investing?
Yeah, so when I first started, I sort of made a chain of mistakes that luckily weren't costly because I had hardly any money to invest. But I originally opened up an investing account with Halifax because I banked with them.
So did I.
Yeah.
That was my first investing account, a general account with Halifax. I invested about £4,000 and then I realised, what's this stocks and shares ISA thing? Sorry.
No, mine is very similar. Like, I opened an account with Halifax. I didn't know what Vanguard was or Trading 212. I thought you had to invest through your bank. I also opened up a general account, so no stocks and shares ISA. I then started picking stocks and I was investing such a small amount of money and I was paying a £12.50 trading fee. I think I put money into Alibaba because all the American YouTubers were banging on about it. I paid a £12.50 trading fee and a ridiculous FX markup of like 1% or 2%. So like, I think something like 10% of my investment went on the fees, maybe even more than that actually. I then finally did open up a stocks and shares ISA with Halifax and I then got sort of auto-enrolled or auto-selected a high fee active fund, which was another mistake. And then I was really investing based on like tips online and forums, the Yahoo discussions. I would always be reading like what stocks to buy. So I sort of made all those mistakes in the first 6 months. Luckily, I was dealing with like hundreds of pounds and not thousands or tens of thousands. So it was fine to make those mistakes. But one I made pretty more recently, and it's probably the biggest lesson, was in 2020 when there was sort of the first big crash I've experienced. My portfolio was a lot smaller because I'd only been investing for 3 years or so by that point. But the market essentially fell off a cliff almost overnight in March 2020. I think it fell about 35%, depending on the specific index you're talking about. And I thought the market would keep dropping. So I was trying to time the market. So I kept investing. Fortunately, I was like £100 or £200 a month. But I then had some extra savings and I purposely didn't invest them because I thought the market was going to crash. What happens? The market bounces back quicker than it almost ever has before in history. It was, I think, back to break even less than like a year later. And then it was on to new all-time highs and just smashing all-time highs almost on like a monthly basis. So that taught me. And in the world, there's literally half the world, well, the whole world's locked up. People are dying. It doesn't make any sense. And the stock market is literally at all-time highs. And even since then, it just keeps smashing all-time highs. So my biggest, most recent lesson was just don't try and time it. Just keep investing. If you have extra cash, you don't need it for 10 plus years. Just get it invested. Because if you try and time it, it just simply doesn't work. And it's one of those things where, like, even if the market goes down by 10%, you still won't invest because, it might fall another 5%. And if it goes up by 10%, you're then going to wait for it to come back down. You end up never investing. So I think back then, I wish I just got that cash invested and just completely ignored all the noise and didn't try and time it.
Yeah, it's honestly so scary how similar our journeys are, especially with the Halifax starting off in a general account. And I too, I was in a very similar position. I had some spare savings in COVID. It was around April time, wasn't it? April, May time. And I remember my S&P 500 ETF at the time, I think it dropped like 20% overnight. I think it was about that. And I was like, this is going down even further after watching all the news. I remember watching all the Parliament briefings as well, even though nothing to do with America, but another lesson. And I remember holding so much money back and I couldn't believe how quickly it rebounded. But I'm also glad I made that mistake as well. So before we wrap this up, there's a lot of people watching this probably that have just got started on their investing journeys. They maybe invested their first £1,000. What would you say your number one tip is for somebody that's thinking about starting to invest or maybe just started to invest and they're looking to do it for the long term right now?
I would say the most important thing is just to get started. It's so easy to overthink, like, what's the best platform? Should I use my ISA or SIP? What global ETF is best? And you can almost just go round and round for years on that question. So I definitely think the most important thing is just starting, putting in 10 quid, 100 quid, whatever you can afford to, and just being consistent, trying to build up that habit. But and other than that, I just think probably educating yourself is the best thing. Just to actually make the best decisions on like what's the best platform for you, what's the best fund for you, but also because the market is going to crash. And it's obviously not very sexy to talk about this, but the market is going to crash over and over again. There's essentially a dip almost every year these days. There's regularly corrections of 10% falls. There's probably going to be 20, 30, 40% crashes that continually happen over the decades. So I think if you educate yourself to understand a bit about the history of that and how the stock market works and how it's sort of what it does, but the market has bounced back from 100% of every previous crash. But I do think if you can educate yourself, you're more likely to stick to it. And yeah, I do think the biggest risk is investing, there being a crash, you panic selling, and just never investing again and bury your head in the sand. The other one I'd say, sorry to waffle on, is workplace pensions. I think I see this almost on a weekly basis when I speak to people, but a lot of people leave a lot of money on the table by not ever accessing their workplace pension. I think 90% of people roughly have never even logged in. So that's millions of people, and 95% of people are still in their default fund. This was me because I got sort of auto-enrolled and accidentally started investing in 2017. But fortunately, I then logged into that standard life pension and switched what fund I was investing into. That actually decreased my fees and increased my returns because I switched to a sort of more stock heavy fund because that's what I wanted, to be in a 100% global fund. I did the exact same in my legal and general workplace pension when I went back into full-time work in 2019 after uni. And just those two decisions, it took probably half an hour each, and they put thousands of pounds in my pocket already, and they will continue to compound for me. So even if you don't change anything in your workplace pension, still just log in. Who's the provider? What fees you're paying? What money? What fund is your money actually invested into? Because even though it is out of sight, out of mind, which can be a good thing to ignore it, it's still your money. And if there are things you can do to reduce your fees or improve it, then it's definitely worth doing. Because over a working career, that could put, tens of thousands of pounds back in your pocket.
Yeah. Was it you that actually told me about, I think it was yesterday when we were together, something about every 1% in your workplace pension equals a certain amount lost over a long time? You saw a study or something?
Yeah, so I did this calculation a few years ago, but over a 40-year sort of working life, which is pretty normal, if you pay an extra 1% in fees, you lose 33% of your returns. And a lot of people, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but you get auto-enrolled into workplace pension. Often the platform fees are quite high. Unfortunately, you can't do much about that because often your workplace chooses a provider and you're just using that nest of either I had legal and general or standard life. You can't often do much about that. But you also get auto-enrolled into a fund, a default fund, and it's normally quite expensive. Both of the ones that I got auto-enrolled into in those two workplace pensions were around a 0.8, 0.9% fee, which is actually massive when compounded over the long term. So in both of them, I switched to global funds that are about 0.2. So I cut my fees by 75%, and that alone is going to put, God knows how much money in my pocket over the long term. And it's just one of those things where it is a bit of admin. It is a bit daunting when you see all these stupid fun names and it doesn't make any sense. But just even spending a couple of hours one Sunday going through it all, understanding it, and maybe making a few tweaks if needed for you could just make the world a difference.
Honestly, and that is all it takes. And I'm a culprit of it myself. It wasn't that long ago until I actually looked at mine. I thought, I'm not earning that much money. It's not going to make much of a difference. But that's the wrong way to look at it. The way you have to look at it is that's going to be compounding for the next 30 years of my life. Maybe a little bit less now as I'm a bit older. But
all those Guinness last night.
Yeah. But yeah, no, some really good tips there, mate, and it's so interesting just to hear about your portfolio. I've heard about it briefly in the past, but that was really insightful. Now, as we mentioned, you are a content creator. You've also got a book as well. So where can people find you, and where can people find your book?
I was going to say, can we superimpose the book here? Stop waiting, start investing. It's here. I'm holding it. If you are in the UK and you want just a sort of blueprint and a simple guide to invest in, that's why I originally wrote Stop Waiting, Start Investing in 2021, and it then got published as a physical book, which is Mental, in 2024. Should have brought one with me. And then other than that, all my social media handles, just making money simple. Similar to you, just making content on investing in personal finance. So if you want to hear another voice.
And that's on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, the lot.
The lot.
Brilliant. Well, I'll put a link to all of those channels in the description down below, alongside a link to that book as well. Maybe you can sort me some money out for that later.
Amazon affiliates.
But yeah, no, thank you so much for coming on, mate. And yeah, like I say, go give Ryan a follow. He's got some really great content.